Good evening, friendly faces on YouTube. I wanted to talk to you for this video about keybinds. Now, I know that there's going to be a lot of veterans that are going to see this video, and you guys probably know most of what it is that I'm going to show people. I do have one trick up my sleeve that I think might be beneficial to you vets, so if you want to stick around, that would be awesome. And as always, as soon as this video is live, early on in the morning, I will be live on Twitch, so if you're watching this and you want to come by and say hi, please stop by twitch.tv/Onepeg and say hi. Anyway, into the video. Here I have a beat-up Keter, and we're just chilling in offline factory, and I'm just going to hold the trigger down and burn off these rounds until the gun jams, like that. Typically, by the default keybinds, if we go and look at the controls, right down here, where it says check chamber fix malfunction. By default, that is left shift T. But in order to be able to fix the malfunction, we first have to inspect the weapon, which by default is the letter L. That's a lot of different keybinds. That means that we have to take our hand off the mouse and go over to L and then hit L to inspect the weapon so that we can go, yeah, there's a failure to eject there, and then we have to hit shift T to be able to pull that thing out and fix it. The problem is that with all of the hand movement that goes on, you have to kind of like take your hand away from your ability to move around when you hit Shift T, and when you use L, now you're taking your hand off the mouse, unless you're going to try and reach across the keyboard, in which case you're still taking your hand off of your movement keys. And in the midst of a firefight, if you end up getting a jam, that usually ends up not going so great for you. I'm going to burn some more rounds off on this thing until we end up getting another jam. We've got a weapon issue. Again, we have a malfunction. In this case, rather than using the default keybinds, and you guys can change it to whatever you want, but just for the sake of simplicity, rather than doing left shift T, we're just going to change this to L. And we're going to make sure that instead of it being on press, we're going to make sure that this says it's being used on release. If we hit L, oh, well, what happened there? On press, it will inspect the weapon. On release, it's supposed to clear the malfunction. We have to hold the key down until after the animation is done. Press, press, hold, 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 and now, as soon as I release the key, we clear the problem. Now we can fire again. If we have the ability to move and hold that key down, like so, and then let go, now I can do all of those actions, and I can still stay on the move. I still have all of my movement keys, my shift keys and whatnot to be able to move around the map while I'm doing that. So it would be highly beneficial to bind this to something like a mouse button. That way you can maintain all of your faculties and still be able to clear your weapon malfunction at the same time. The idea of the double bind also works very, very well when it comes to things like meds. If you notice right now on my hotbar, I have the number 4 double bound. I also have the number 5 double bound as well for things like painkillers and splints. In the keybinds, we do the same type of thing. Go down to where it starts listing out the slots, slot 4 through 0. In the case of slot 4 and 5, I have it bound to 4. 4 for me is a mouse button on my mouse. So I have one set to press and the other set to release. Then what we do is we just think about this logically. In the case of getting a heavy bleed, both a car kit and the Esmark tourniquet are something that will heal a heavy bleed. In a lot of cases, though, what you will have are people that make the mistake of mashing the wrong button and using something like an AFAK when they had an Esmark or a hemostat all along. This way, by double binding it, you're always pressing the key down first before you release it. The easiest way to do that is to press the button down. Here, and I will unbind these just so that we can see this. You're going to press the mouse button or the number button on your keypad down, whatever it is. You're going to hold it down, drag it up to the other car kit, in this case, and then release. That way, if you get a heavy bleed, when you press the button down, you will heal the heavy bleed, and then when you release it, it will just use the normal kit. And the way that the game is working, logically speaking, if you don't have a heavy bleed, it just bypasses it and goes and uses the AFAK, IFAK, car kit, Salewa kit, whatever it is, to do all of the other healing that you need. This also has the added benefit of freeing up keys on your keyboard or on your mouse to be utilized for other things. And we're all about efficiency when it comes to Tarkov, right? Nothing like a good min-max strategy after all. Second to last on the list, there's a keybind or a set of keybinds that have to do with the double-click timeout. Specifically, the two that I'm thinking of just off the top of my head that are the most important are the emergency reload and the select automatic fire option. And I'll illustrate it like this. If we take this slider and we slide it all the way up to 1, if I hit R, and I'm just going to say when I press it, now, there's a delay, a very, very visible delay. Press of about a second. And the reason why is because this double-click timeout creates a delay waiting for a double click. Even if we turn it down to the minimum, this is still 300 milliseconds, 0.3 of a second, which means that there's going to be a slight delay every time I press the button of about 1/3 of a second before the reload actually happens, because it's looking for me to double tap the button instead and do an emergency reload where you drop the mag on the ground and keep on trucking. But that delay can end up causing you issues in firefights or if you're preparing for one. Anytime that something costs us time, it is a bad idea. So rather than doing that, by default, what I have it set to is Shift R rather than double tap R, just like so. And instead of having it listed as double click, we just have it set to press. So now if we hit R, we do a normal reload. Ready? Press. It happens instantly the moment that we press the button, because that's what we want. If we hit Shift R, boom, we have our combat reload. At the same time, we have this 1/3 of a second delay when we go to switch firing modes. When I press B, notice that there's a delay. Press. And it has that weight associated to it. If I spam the button, nothing happens. See, I'm mashing B right now. You can hear me clicking away on it, right? Nothing's occurring. And the reason why is because when you double tap the button, it's supposed to switch to full auto. So rather than doing switch fire mode B and set fire mode to full auto as double click, we just set this to B, change this to press, like so, which would unbind switch fire, and then we're going to press this to B and put this at press, which unbinds set fire mode to full auto completely, because we don't want set fire mode to full auto at all. And now, because I don't have that bound anymore, mash, 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 I can switch between these as fast as I want, which is going to occur an awful lot faster than 1/3 of a second. Because the text is so prevalent on the screen as you're switching fire modes, it doesn't really matter whether or not you have that double press. So if you guys just get into the habit of knowing what fire mode you're in at all times, you won't really ever need the double tapping B to get into full auto. At least that's my opinion. Okay, last but certainly not least, let's talk about scopes real quick. When it comes to scopes, by default, the keybind to change your weapon zeroing to 100, 150, etc. is page up and page down, where you would move that number in the lower right-hand corner up in increments of either 25 or 50, depending on the scope that you're using at the time. But if you notice, I can make those numbers move a whole lot faster than mashing a page up and page down key. The reason why is I have this rebound to Alt and mouse wheel up and mouse wheel down. So if I want to wheel up to whatever increment I need, I can do that on the mouse wheel. Very quick and very easy. As it turns out, Shift mouse wheel up and down is also unbound currently. So think about ideas that you could do with that, because that would probably end up being pretty useful for y'all, you know? Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please consider giving me a follow on my socials at OnePegMG on Twitter. And if you would be so kind, please consider giving me a sub here. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much. Have a great one. Peace.